created a team with Kathy, Encore States, and this is where we are now. And I'm happy to be part of this office and part of the ALC. If you guys have any concerns or questions or anything, I'm here to help.
And Cam's also a mentor, so as you can see from earlier with Nagar. Thanks, Cam. Deb.
Kevin Daniele, I've been in Keller Williams for close to 2 years now. I've been in the real estate market for about 10 years, more than 10 years. Me and Diane Sharp, we are part of the community of educational and classes. Happy to be part of the ALC as well. Just here to help and do whatever we can do, except we have
So let me chime in on a couple things. We also, one of the takeaways was, and we're gonna get far more purposeful about the committees. So these guys are each involved in chairing a committee. Cam actually with the finance committee, Kevin, as he said, with Diane on the education committee that helps shape the calendar and the courses that the training we offer. So he chairs that committee with Diane. Howie.
Luxury marketing.
With Tatiana, who wasn't able to be here today. So I want you guys to understand that that's a big part of what we're doing. And the next meeting, I think we said, they're gonna start to get people involved and who want to be part of their respective committees, because the committees are designed for them to chair the committees and lead them, and then all of you guys to be part of those committees. So you're helping shape the decisions of the office.
Johnny Nickel, I've been in real estate for about 12 and a half years. I've been at this office for, I think, 6 or 7. It kind of gets boring after a while. I'm on a team with some other agents called MS Property Partners. We're in the back, other side of the building, in the little fishbowl. Been on the ALC as of this year, and I'm a mentor in the office as well, here to help any way I can.
Awesome.
My name is Chris Jacobs. I've been here like 7.5 years, started in real estate in 2006. I started as Jeff Yarborough's assistant, and from that, we formed a team, and then I decided I wanted to go out on my own a few years ago. So went out on my own, and then we are part of the culture committee, so we plan a lot of things for the office, like Red Day, parties and whatnot. So, but I think, speaking for all of us, we have an open door policy, so if you guys ever need anything or have questions, I'm happy to help.
Awesome, and he just hired an executive assistant, Chase.
I did, yes. So.
Yep. Cool.
I can sleep now.
Yeah.
I'm Kathy Cameron. Been in the business for too long. 23 years. Been with Keller Williams past 5 years. Been very happy here. We are part of the culture committee, and what we're trying to do is really shape, the office. We want to help each other grow, and there are a couple of things actually that are coming up. I want you guys to mark your calendars. One is we're going to have the
Bowls and
barbecue, June 25th. So right after the office meeting.
3 weeks from today.
3 weeks from today, we're planning the barbecue, a 4th of July barbecue, and then July 25th is where we're hoping to have a bowling night. Something fun, non-real estate related, and we just want to be together. And as Chris said, we're here if there's any comments, if there's anything that you guys think we should do, we're here to just make this office the best place we've ever made.
So I'm gonna ask one question that I'm gonna open up to you guys. Like, if you were to give, and we'll go down the line, and whoever wants to start, 1, 2, 3 pieces of advice for, what are the biggest lessons you learned? You all have a lot of experience. It comes from many different perspectives. Like, what are the keys to success? And I know that's a broad question, but I think it's helpful just to hear all the different perspectives on being successful in this business. Not just for new people, for anyone. Like, what do you guys feel are the keys to success in real estate?
Yeah, I guess my biggest challenge is really being organized, and the follow-ups. Is really taking keeping up with your database and doing the follow-ups. It's the follow-ups that make the deals happen, not the first call.
Love it. Howie?
We're in the business of lead generation. nothing else matters. Because you can have 10 deals happening, they're going to close eventually, and then you have to be ready for what comes next. And if you're not lead generating, if you don't always focus on your pipeline, your business will just come to a stop. And yes, you'll have the money in your pocket from those 10 deals, but it will take time to ramp up again. So whether you have one deal and it's a $30 million deal, or if you have 10 deals and it's, each one is 500,000, it doesn't matter. You have to be focusing on, we all have to be focusing on the pipeline. So what are you doing, what are we all doing on a daily basis? And if you don't do it on one day because you're too busy with an escrow or something, or inspections, you have to double up the next day or triple up the day after that, because it doesn't matter what level of business we are doing, we're in the business of lead generation. That's the biggest thing. And that looks different for everybody in terms of how you lead generate or how I lead generate. But just, you have to do it.
And Bold will emphasize that more than you can ever imagine. So great advice.
I would say, kind of leading off Howie, I think the biggest mistake that I made was getting big checks and, just kind of kicking back a little bit. Never let the momentum stop. Always chase the next thing and have stuff in the pipeline, because you'll learn the hard way. And it's you're starting from scratch if you wait too long. So just always keep the momentum going. Would be my suggestion.
Love it. Kathy?
I think what I've committed to for the past 2 years is just showing up, like in the face of the hardship of the business, personal life, and life happening on the day-to-day business. I've just been committed to being here and showing up no matter what, and I think that by itself has led to a lot of things. So
Yeah, I love that. I always say, like, you can't win if you're not in the game. Right? So, if you don't step on the field, you have no chance of winning, right? If you don't step up to the plate, even if I'd rather step up and strike out than never step up at all, because you have no chance of hitting the ball, right? So I think that's a great piece of advice. Kevin?
I'll say same thing as they said. I mean, lead generation is the #1 key to our business. We have to be consistent on it. I mean, I'd be the #1 person to be guilty of not doing it last year. And this put me behind for a few months. I said one thing about Bold. I've done Bold 2 times. I'm gonna do it the 3rd time as well when it's coming. First time,
Get you uncomfortable.
I just didn't want to continue. I didn't want to go, but I pushed myself. I finished it, and after that, I didn't like it. It kind of put a setback. Second time, I liked it much more, and that's because it put us in a better habit of whatever we do, which is #1 thing that we're supposed to do is lead generation. So getting into the habit of doing lead generation comes from both by doing time blocking and other stuff. So if you haven't signed up for both, definitely I suggest you sign up and comfortable.
Love it. All right, I'm going to open it up to you guys, because that's really what I wanted to do first and foremost. Don't be bashful. Take advantage of this opportunity about anything, really. These are amongst our top agents in the office, so take advantage of this opportunity. Aisha.
Like in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, it says to aim high. What do you do when you aim high and you don't have the resources?
I would say you team up with you have to team up with another agent that can provide those resources. And is that what you're talking about? Like, yeah, so you would have to team up with another agent that has the ability to give you those resources. If it's providing valet and all this photos, video, and everything like that, you just have to team up with someone, and then hopefully they're kind enough to let you pay them at the end of the transaction if you close it. But I think starting out, you just have to. That's exactly what I did with Jeff. Starting out, we had to. He helped me out a bit, and he took care of the finances, and then I'd pay him back at the end. But I think you just definitely have to team up with someone.
And like, great answer and the right answer. And what Chris left out is that he obviously showed Jeff the initiative. He brought something to Jeff, and that, I don't even know the specifics, but I just know, common sense will tell me he brought an opportunity. He brought a mindset. He brought a coachability that Jeff recognized, or Jeff wouldn't have invested the money and time. So again, you can control only what you can control, and then if the right people will recognize that, and if you bring an opportunity, they'll go in with you. But you gotta show up and take the initiative. Good question. Phoenix.
So 2 questions. So going to your first name again? Chris. All right, so what did you bring to that initial partnership and to the table? If you could define that specifically, what you brought to the experience that your partner had.
What did Jeff see in Chris?
Yeah, what did he see in you? That's number one. Number two, if each of you could talk, without giving your secrets away, about lead generation, how it's evolved for you from when you started to your approach now, and what lessons you wish you knew at the beginning that you've picked up over time, so that we don't make those same mistakes.
I think Jeff saw that I worked hard. I would stay here until 9 o'clock, and I would get listing appointments, real listing appointments. Not, I've had agents ask me to come with them, and it's nothing set up yet. It's just so I got real solid leads. Just working my tail off. So I'd bring that to Jeff and be like, hey, I've done the comps, I've done everything. Here's X, Y, and Z. They're ready to meet. Let's make a listing presentation. So I think it's just you have to make sure that the client's real, because you don't want to waste your time or the other person's time. And if you're wasting their time, they're going to lose respect for you and probably never do it again. So you just want to make sure that you have all your T's crossed, I's dotted. So I think it's just just make sure that everything's real, and you do your homework and you show that you're hungry. Josh always says be hungry and humble. You show that you're hungry and you're prepared. So if not, we don't want to waste our time. We don't know if it's real. I think we've all had experiences where we've had our time wasted, so we're kind of scarred by that. But if we see someone that seems genuinely interested and has the passion and is prepared, then it motivates us too. So
Sure.
And I'll be quite frank, for those that know Jeff, I assure you, he's not going to waste his time on anything. So I guarantee what Chris brought him was credible.
And then the second question was about the evolution in your individual approaches to lead generation.
Mine, I started out slow. I actually got my first listing off Facebook, and then it was a condo, and then I got more listings in there, and then just kind of, that's why I think it's always great to start on a team when you lack experience, because you get to share their portfolio. So people are seeing these properties and they're assuming that they're yours. So I think I kind of had that in my pocket, and then Facebook, social media was a big component for me. I had people reaching out, and then you kind of build that, and you kind of learn, and you see what your mentor or your partners are doing, whether it's doing expires. It was kind of different back then with expires, because now everyone's chasing after them now. But like for example, when the market went to crap, I looked at everyone that tried to sell before it crashed, and I'm like, well, these people didn't sell, but they wanted to sell. So I actually got a lot of listings that way from a few years back. I went back to them and I would send them, and they were like, yeah, well, actually the market's bouncing back, we're interested. So I think it's just kind of like thinking outside the box, and also now my business is driven by referrals, just because of helping. Yeah.
Who else here? Like, how has your lead gen evolved, and what lessons have you learned, right?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of doing open houses. I try to do 3 a month at least, and I've gotten a lot of business off of them. And the way it's evolved is that I used to do a lot of stuff with Jeff as well. And I remember in the beginning I would go to open houses, not just for Jeff, but for anybody. And I'd bring the Sunday paper with me, and I'd sit at the house and I'd read the sports section and the calendar section. And I'd get really pissed off if I saw somebody walking in the house because they were going to interrupt my reading time. That was the wrong mindset. And guess what? I didn't get any business that way. They never saw me reading, but I was just upset. So then I realized that I need to kind of change my attitude. And I did. And I realized that not just with my own listing, I don't know if it started with other listings or my own listings, this is an opportunity. They're all coming in, and I think the other thing that we do in the beginning is at an open house, if somebody walks in, you try to ask them right away, hey, do you have an agent? Don't do that. You try to ask them, are you buying something today? Don't do that. You have to realize that it's going to take time. You want to get their information, you want to get them comfortable with you, and then they will call you back, and they will answer the phone when you call them again over the next couple of months, and then that leads to business. And then when you close deals with them, then it turns into referrals, and they start telling their family about you or their friends, and you will start to see the wave happening of the business that you're doing starts coming from referrals, but for me personally, I don't want to just depend on that, because I want to have the attitude that can go away versus back to bold and sort of lead generating. I want to be doing things that I'm
able to sell them those products. I was able to say, hey, how about you make bigger investments, buying multifamily or other deals. So I kept the clients, but I sort of switched the strategy of what I'm selling them. So I just switched my strategy of the product that I was selling them.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of losing them, it was pretty much a shift.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Well, for me it's a little bit different because my focus is mainly on multifamily lands. So a lot of cold calls. I mean, they don't live on the apartment building. The land is nothing to be there to door. So a lot of cold calls on my end, plus my sphere of influence, and also, just everywhere that I go, I talk about real estate, which everybody loves to talk about. So that's me.
I know Jared already left. Did you have a question?
No, I forgot actually.
Okay. Abu.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Kevin, you say you do multi-family units. Are you willing to give a class, to teach people how to analyze, multi-family units? So when we come across those, we know what's
Go ahead,
to
Jared.
do.
You're the one set it up. I don't know.
Sure. We have picked few classes from family union. As far as multifamily, how to underwrite or put the numbers together and stuff, we haven't done so. We're working on someone who's a commercial residential person who's gonna come here and.
When is that? This month?
We haven't set the time exactly.
It's on the calendar. I think. Yeah.
Guide to this facility.
The guy you
Right.
Yeah, it's on the calendar. I don't know when the date is, but.
I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
think I missed that.
Yeah.
But.
He's not teaching it.
No, I'm not teaching.
He got set up.
This is his own class.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm not. So he's gonna be available. He's gonna teach those elements of multifamily as well. I'm gonna take a look at the calendar and see what they.
Yeah, look on the calendar.
I think it's June 20th.
What's
Yeah.
it called?
Yeah. Ava.
It's not in June.
Guide to.
It's this month. It's June.
Guide
Yep.
to self-commercial.
Yep. Yep.
My question is, you said at the beginning you've done a lot of open houses and you changed. Did you change your strategy? Did you brand yourself a little different? There's so many different agents all over, so did you have a specific style that you think might be memorable?
It was just my personality in that I got this, these listings, these new development listings for a builder. We were building 9 houses, and we had 2 going at one time, and they were these beautiful modern homes. And the open houses were just packed all the time. And I realized these people are coming in and everyone's an opportunity. So I just realized I had to speak to everybody quickly and not have a 1-hour conversation with them, because then 8 other people are gonna walk by. I figured out how to just let my personality kind of work for me and connect. So I just dialed it up and created my own spiel, which you're always adapting, If a joke works, use it. If it doesn't, get rid of it. And that's how I interact with people. And I sort of created it into, this is now how I run my open houses. And it works for me. It doesn't work with everybody. I mean, not everybody that comes in turns into a sale or a referral. But it wasn't about branding myself. It was just about how I conduct myself. Again, you can walk into plenty of open houses. I remember I did it before I was in real estate. I'd walk in and I would see somebody reading the paper and they wouldn't look up, and I would look at my wife and say, what's up with that, you know? You can be that person if you want, but my attitude is I'm going to welcome you, I'm going to give you a little quick spiel, let you do your thing, and then I'm going to touch base with you again, and I'm going to get new information, and then I'm going to follow up. So the good conversations quite often don't even happen at the open house because I'm focusing on the other people that are there as well, you know? So it's just about, you have to do it how it works for you. The way I do it works for me. You might say, I like this, this, and this. I would never do this the way you're doing it. I'm gonna try it that way. So just, you know, look at how other people do their open houses. Try things on your own. You know, it's about how you talk to people and how you, it's like when you go shopping for a car. We've all gone shopping for a car, you don't want to be attacked. That's how people are at open houses. So you have to keep that in mind. Don't jump on them right when they walk in. So just figure out what makes sense for you.
And I'll also say what Kathy said earlier, you gotta be in the game. You gotta show up and do them. All right, just do that. That'll be the catalyst to it all. You know, you'll learn and adapt if you're in the environment. You know, get open houses. You can ask internally. You can make calls to people. You know, that's a great way, and honestly, arguably maybe the biggest common denominator of those that have, and I know Chris has built a lot, I mean, many top people have built their businesses, and the foundation is from doing open houses.
And as far as being in the game and being there, if it starts at 2 o'clock, don't get there at 5 to 2, because there will be people there that are there early. You know, get there 1:15, 1:30, have your signs out bright and early.
Yeah.
So when people start showing up, you're ready to roll. There's nothing worse than rushing because you don't have your
And
stuff
Heidi
out.
can speak to that. We visited her, and she was so like prepared with all her. I mean, yeah, it's all preparation. You get your mind in the game, and are you, and depending on the area, are you door knocking the area the day or a couple of days before to get? I mean, there's so many, methodologies to really leverage that open house and use it as a great, vehicle to generating leads.
I think it's super. I like Howie. I hated doing open houses. I would like to go out on Saturdays and I'm like in the morning. But I think it's also you have to. It's kind of a skill you learn, but you have to learn who's coming in. Like some people don't like to joke, some people do like to joke. So I think it's just important. I think also like if someone's open to it, like shadowing a top agent, seeing how they interact with people. I've been fortunate. I double into a lot of my deals just because I don't attack, and I just kind of. You have to know your stuff, and it needs to be scripted but not sound scripted. And I also tell my new assistant now, I'm like, he does a lot of my open houses. I said, each person that walks through that door, you think of them as the owner's friends because they may be sending someone through. So have every candle lit, be standing up, greet them right away. Don't be sitting there reading the paper, not look up. So I think it's really important to interact right away because these people are seeing, probably 10 agents in one day. So, that's also why I think it's important not to be like, because they're probably getting that 9 times, and then you're the 10th. So.
By the way, Howie teaches a great open house, how to hold an open house class. It's a great class. So.
One thing I want to add to that, if you're holding an open house for somebody else, really learn the neighborhood. See what is recently sold there, see what's going on. So when people come in and say, hey, one sold down the street or this one is for sale, they know you're an expert in that area. So really study.
I mean, how many people today, they were asking Jared all about what was going on.
You have to sound encyclopedic.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah, absolutely.
Because Camier could have an open house 5 doors down than me, and he knows the area, and I could have one 5 doors down, and I don't know anything. I'm gonna look like an idiot, he's gonna look like a genius. So I think it's really what Camier said. Yeah. Know your
And that
spot.
could be a difference of like 5 minutes of studying.
Yeah,
honestly.
Or have it in front of you and just keep looking at it. Yeah.
I have a question. So let's say you're decent at building rapport. Oh, could you please sign in? Rapport. Great. Ha ha ha. Oh, you didn't write your number down. My agent. Maybe they don't have an agent. I don't know. How do you circumvent that?
It's a longer, it's just all in your spiel, it's again, it's making them feel comfortable, it's getting them talking, and then, again, in my class, I'll show you how to do this, but when they sign in and walk away to look at the house, I will look at the sheet to see if they signed in their number or not. If they didn't, I will put in a fake number with my initials next to it, so I know that I wrote the number and it's not real, and I know that when you come back around and I say, hey, what'd you think of the house? And I get you talking and there's more rapport, I can say, hey, let me make sure I've got your info, and then you're either going to admit that you didn't sign in, and I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it, but just say, hey, what's the best number to reach you at? I'll cross out the fake number, write in your number, put a check next to it so I know that it's real, and then boom, I've got your contact info. Listen, there are people that do not want to sign in. Again, when I was younger, it would piss me off, and you get into your battle stance. You just let it go. You have to choose your battles, especially if there are a lot of people in the open house. Fine, you're never going to win certain people over. So, but you want to make them feel comfortable. I mean, I've gotten cursed out. I did an open house. There was one guy in the house. I just did my regular thing, and he just started cursing at me. He's like, I would never fucking work. I would never work with you. Okay.
I had one of those. I think also like take notes. John taught me that. Because you kind of lose track of who's who, and you're like, if it's someone with a small kid, like, so you can so you're not calling them sounding like they're a stranger to you.
Yeah. Sorry, not to interrupt. The reason I put the fake number in, thank you, Kim, is so when the next person comes to sign in,
They see
they
the
don't see
number.
an empty space and then read it blank as well.
That works so well.
Yeah. So email address, that's great.
Except, if you use Open Home Pro on the iPad, you get a lot more information. It's legible always, and they never see the person before or after. It's just there for them.
Again, it's up, everyone's got their own style. I find people don't want to spend time on the iPad. If I'm walking around, I don't wanna leave my iPad there and have somebody walk off with it. And if you're not technically savvy, I just find that having people sign in the way I do it, for me, it allows me to control the information. If the iPad works for you, great, it's just not my.
There's many paths to success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't necessarily follow my advice because I'm sure everyone would be against it. I don't even have a sign-in sheet because I think it's useless. In my opinion, 'cause a lot of people just scribble down like you can't read it. So if I can tell someone's serious, I make sure I get their information. You can usually see that they're kind of hanging back. I think it's just a skill that you acquire over time. So again, like I said, don't take my advice. It may not work for you guys, but that's kind of what I do too.
John.
Knowing the importance of having a team member, what is the ingredient of forming a successful team where everybody does? Because one person cannot do everything, lead generation and things like that. Is there any way that what is the ideal team member and what's the responsibility of each team to be successful and lead generate? In lead generating and doing the other thing that make the business successful for each member of the team. How many is the ideal number?
Every team is a different structure.
It all comes back to like what's the goal for the individual or the person running the team, because your goal may be different than someone else's goal, So there's an infinite number of structures to a team. I mean, some people want to build a big team, similar to like a mini brokerage, and that can be, there's a path for that. And then there's another path that if you want to be lean and mean and you just, Chris, can build a huge business, especially in a high price point like this, with just T and Chase, and that's the team. Or it can be, MS Property Partners, where there's, 7 people on the team. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer to that, but I think the key, and you guys told me, is being crystal, whatever the team looks like, being really clear about the standards and expectations of everyone on that team, so you're all working in unison with similar expectations, and ultimately have accountability to one another to achieve the goal.
And the first step is hiring, as Chris did, an executive assistant. That's the $1 million real estate thing. Hire an executive assistant, and that's going to leverage it. It's not a buyer's agent for us, it's that executive assistant.
It took me 4 tries, so my 4th one.
That's when you've done it 4 tries.
Did I hear how
Daniel, how each of you handle feedback to your sellers, throughout the listing, the open houses? I never hear anybody talk about that.
Every Monday, sorry. How do we deliver feedback to the seller?
That's a great.
Every Monday
do you do
I.
that based on, do you analyze the personality of that seller and give him only what he needs? Do you always give certain information? How do you handle it?
I always send an email Monday because it's also good for me to be able to look back. So every Monday I send an open house update, and then they kind of get used to that, and then we can chat on the phone. But I want to be able to send that and then be able to look back too, so I can be like, oh, how many people did I have through the open house? And I can kind of gauge things that way too. So every Monday I follow up. If I have someone else sitting my open houses, I say you have to have me open house report with how many people, not about, I need an exact number, I need some feedback. I can't send my client one sentence. So every Monday I send a open house update, and then I'll chat with them if they want to talk more.
Very good question.
I usually decide, seller at a time, but the first, question I have from them is how do you want to be communicated? Are you a phone person? Are you a text person? Are you an email person? First, I try to establish that. And then, the second question is how involved do you want to be? Like, do you want to, some want to be involved step by step, like how many open houses, when, where, how, and some really don't want to know about it until you have an offer at hand or, it's a reduction of price. So each seller would be different, but, what I try to make sure to have is, the record of what has been happening. So anytime that I need to be, in touch with them and contact them, I have everything ready to go. So that's how I do it.
Yeah, and again, like Kathy said, ask the question. Like, how do you want to be communicated to, right? That can be unique to each person, right? Good question. Yeah.
I will say, just to tack on to that, I do mine on Sunday nights because usually sellers, if you're having an open house on Sunday, they're anxious. If they live there, they've left the house for 3 hours, they come back, they want to know what happened. So I try to get to them Sunday night, whether I make contact with them. That's okay. Well, I try to call them, and if I don't get them, I'll send them a detailed email. I do think, though, it's important to give. We have to especially when we're talking about open houses, we have to take the emotion out of it, and we have to give the good, the bad, and the ugly. Not crap on it and say your house is awful, nobody wants it. However, you have to be honest with the feedback that you're getting, because if no one is coming to see the house, if you're not getting phone calls, you're not getting offers, obviously, because everyone's saying the layout doesn't work or this or that, you have to tell your client that along the way, because if you don't, if you think you're protecting them, and then a month later or 3 weeks later or 6 weeks later, you try to have a conversation about a price reduction, they're going to say, why would I reduce the price? We haven't gotten any negative feedback, but because you've been sitting on it. So if you dole it out without any emotion, if you dole it out along the way, you can then say, listen, everybody has said they have a problem with the layout of the home or the this or the that. If 10 people tell you you look sick, go see a doctor, kind of thing. But you can't do that, or it's harder to do that, I think, if you're not really being honest with them. And again, I think when most of us start, I certainly did, you try to sugarcoat and try to always make the conversations good. Some of them are going to be awful, either because the clients are just miserable people, or the news happens to be miserable, but you have to just kind of go in and know, I'm gonna get my love at home, this is business, I'm telling you how it goes. I don't set the price, you don't set the price, the marketplace sets the price, and here's the reality of it, so.
Yeah,
So, that's question. When I was in construction, I used to always try to under promise, over deliver as a project manager. In real estate, I'd like to know how you would do that, more like specifically. Yeah. Let's say everything's going well, but you don't want to get their hopes up too high. People are still writing. I don't know.
I would say, I'll jump in. I probably just up front when it comes to pricing. Again, everybody wants to get the most amount of money for their house. We want to sell it for the most. The more money they make, the more money we make. However, you have to be realistic.
Yeah.
Don't, but you know, it's 2.4 to 2.6, all right, let's list it at 2.75. It's just gonna come back to bite you in the ass, you know, it's not gonna happen. So I tell everybody, I don't think that you can underprice a house. Because if the client thinks it's worth 2.5 and I say, no, I think it's 2.3, let's list it at 2.3. And if I'm wrong, if it's worth more than that, it will naturally, there should be multiple offers and it should drive the price back up. If it doesn't, then guess what? It's not an I told you so, but it's worth this number. And if it doesn't even happen there, then that's not the right number either. It's worth less than that. So I think you have to be careful with pricing, because we've all been in this situation, whether it's a big sexy house with a big number attached to it, oh, I just wanna get that listing, I'll list it for whatever you want. That's gonna cost you money, you know, and it's gonna be a waste of time, and you're gonna get fired and have nothing to show for it. So I think you want to be realistic about pricing, and that's a good way to be on board.
Robert?
I was reading what Chris was saying with the emails on returning the calls on Monday because it's efficient and you don't have to take much time. And the question is, if you have 10 listings, if you have 20 listings, if you have 30 listings, Howie, are you calling all of them? And are you actually calling them? Are you sending an email?
I will let you know when I have 30 listings.
So right now you're calling.
Yeah. That's called leverage in the executive assistant. I mean, that's the reality. Yeah.
So you call all of them for your entire team. No one else is calling. You're the only one calling.
No. It's whoever's listing it is.
They call.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it's good to train your seller too. Like I'll tell them, you know, I'll send you, I want to follow up with the agents. I want to follow up with who came through. So then, you know, I can't give them, and if they catch me outside, I'll give them a quick, you know, rundown, but I'll be like, you know, so I can reach out to people, whether I talk to nobody or not. But it's what you said, I always give some positive, and I'm like, well, the floor plan doesn't work and we're running into the same problem, because it will come back to bite in the butt when you want that reduction. So, but yeah, I guess it's just whatever works for everybody.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is just communicating. It's coming up with a plan and actually just communicating. Whatever it is, just communicate with them and see what they like or.
Bro, a real simple rule of thumb, I was just saying this to guys, treat others like you want to be treated. Like, just put yourself in their shoes, think about what they want, and ask them questions, because what one person may want may be different than, understand what they want, and then, you know, deliver, right?
And they'll let you know what they want.
Yep.
So.
It's kind of like when you go on a listing presentation, some people are all about numbers, so you want to, you know, forensically talk about on comps, this is the price per square foot on this date, blah, 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 blah. And then you realize when you say that same conversation with someone else, their eyes are rolling over, and they just want you to tell you what the price is.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. So you have to know who your audience is. Sometimes you don't know until you get there, until mid-conversation.
Yeah.
But you just have to.
One last question, because I want to, go ahead.
I have two part question. One is, what, price range is too low? And the other one is, do you
Nothing.
use those
Never too low.
analyst, theorists, feeler, driver, personality things when you deal with people? Or is that just like something you learn about and you know you
What are you talking about, using like a disc profile, or?
Yeah, like, you know, you go, okay, I think my client is an analyst, so I'm gonna talk to my client like this, cause I know that they want these details, but not those.
I think
Price, I'll do anything.
I think it goes with whether they were listed before or not listed before. It's a new listing.